and welcome to Get the Table, another wrestling roundtable discussion podcast with myself, Adam Wilborn, one of the Dudley Boys, Michael Sidgwick, and Andy Murray from WhatCulture, here to discuss another burning wrestling issue. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts, where we review Raw, SmackDown, the Wednesday Night War between AEW and NXT pay-per-views. We have interviews, more roundtables discussions like this one, and a roundup of the week complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. But gents, we are gathered here today to discuss the state of SmackDown. SmackDown is officially in crisis. First of all, let's start by asking you, Michael Sidgwick, what you make of the news of Eric Bischoff. He's sacked!
That's twice he's done that today.
Better ever. Thoroughly unsurprising for me. It was the most baffling choice to begin with, hiring him in an executive director role, because Paul Heyman's got like an eternal cachet with the fan base. So that was kind of like a sentimental hire, and one that is kind of bore fruit to a degree. I'm a bit mixed on it more than anybody else, but his fingerprints are on it. Eric Bischoff's fingerprints are on burger buns in catering, by all accounts, because that's apparently all he's done. It was an inexplicable hire. He was a disaster in TNA. He was hired because the person who hired him had no knowledge of that disaster in TNA. I tweeted something to the effect, just being a smart arse, like I normally am, something to the effect of, lol, can't wait for Bischoff's next podcast, 9 weeks. And that's pretty much, you can follow me on Twitter at Sidgwick for more gold like that, and that's pretty much how long it lasted. It was just baffling, absolutely baffling.
Yeah, like I kind of, to be honest, buy into the conspiracy theory that this guy was only ever brought in as a fall guy, to be honest. I think that's perfectly believable, accompanied by the stories of him just fanning around, not really doing anything, not really contributing creatively. Easy E fanning around.
But my favourite bit about it is, you know that episode of The Simpsons where like Lenny takes over the power plant and he goes, "Attention everybody, work harder, bye." Basically Eric Bischoff's entire role.
That's essentially what it was. But like the two things just marry up perfectly to one another. I am all over the place for these words. But, you know, like WWE, the Fox thing, getting it right is absolutely vital. Winning the Wednesday Night Wars is slightly less vital, but a big blow to their pride if they don't do it. When things started to go awry, when things started to go wrong, when the ship started to wobble a bit, you know, Eric Bischoff is a very easy guy to just say, "See you later." Yeah. And also, I think Eric would have probably been up for that, you know. Employment meeting, right, Eric? So what's going to happen is that we're going to fire you in 3 months when something goes wrong, and we're going to give you, I don't know, 250 grand. He'd be all over that, the sleazy git.
Yeah, there's a bit of me that feels sorry because, you know, he upped sticks and moved to be, you know, closer to Connecticut.
Do your job.
But, like you say, it's by all accounts, he has been going missing. He hasn't been, you know, appearing for meetings. He's only been spotted in catering, as you mentioned. He hasn't got a clue about the talent. Hasn't made any effort to find anything.
What a worker, by the way.
And he's getting a massive payoff, no doubt, as a result of it all. So you can't really excuse all that, but he just seems to have been utilised as this fall guy quite early on in this SmackDown on Fox era.
If I'm going to play devil's advocate, a lot of these details come from a man who I respect and think's hilarious and all the rest of it, Brian Alvarez. And he is obviously going to go nuclear on this Bischoff thing because him being such a failure in WWE completely reinforces the narrative of his Death of WCW book,
for sure.
which is
amazing.
It's hilarious. It's kind of taken a bit of a knock in terms of its prestige in the wake of the Nitro book, and Eric Bischoff's been very quick to point out any so-called inaccuracies. So if we're going to be fair and objective analysts, we're not journalists. None of us have ever said that we're journalists.
I'm a journalist.
No, you're not.
Shut up, man.
No, you're not. If we're going to be fair analysts, let's look at the devil's advocate position. Alvarez has kind of got motive to go nuclear, but, I mean, 2 and 2 equals 4. He's been there like 3 months. And if you look at the objective evidence in front of you, that is WWE SmackDown, who would have thought that would be worse than Raw?
Yeah. And it's...
Raw's crap.
I mean, not with just Heyman in charge, 'cause I think most people would probably prefer Heyman to be creatively involved more so than Bischoff, but extent to which SmackDown fell off a cliff with the whodunit storyline, where they had to rehire Harper, who they hate, just to get like sort of a way out of there.
Yeah.
That was very telling to me. SmackDown has been pretty awful in terms of its main storylines. Look at what they've done to poor Kevin Owens. He was on fire in July, and now he's a complete
Now he's a
corpse
dork again.
here in October.
Well, when Bischoff came in, there were those reports that he wouldn't really be that involved in the creative process.
Why
and so
did he have
forth,
the
weren't
same
there?
title as Heyman? Sorry, carry on.
Right, like there was all these kind of reports about how he was only there to like negotiate with network people and like sweeten Fox executives up and
Work harder, bye.
Yeah, walk in the room with that smile and do some of his schmoozing that by all accounts he is excellent at. You know what they should have done with Eric Bischoff? I don't really want authority figures, but they should have just made him an on-screen character because he's great at that. He's really entertaining. He's got the best music of all time, not of all time, of a time. It's really good. He's got a great smile. He's got great teeth. Good hair for, an elder fella.
He knows karate.
He knows karate, exactly. The Honey Larkin's pick in
He's Dayman.
Who's Nightman then? Paul Heyman.
Pritchard. Playing 4D chess him out of a job. Fantastic work and stuff.
We will get on to the future of SmackDown and Bruce Pritchard even. But let's go into more detail as well with these reports. Like we mentioned, not only has Bischoff allegedly not been great at his role, but WWE morale is down. There was people allegedly considering quitting under his watch. Now, is that just that?
I'm sorry, it's just so funny, this.
It's great,
It
isn't
can't just be Bischoff, though, because WWE, you sense morale is down across the board.
Why would you possibly be happy working there? I mean, let's be real.
That's the best wrestling in the world, isn't it?
Period.
Seth Rollins, yeah.
I mean, let's be realistic. If you're Buddy Murphy, you're getting a sniff of the big time. And not only have you got a sniff, you've warranted that mini push you got because you've wrestled two of the best TV matches in WWE all year. Nothing happens after.
Yeah.
Nothing happens after. So the talent obviously is going to have no sort of cause to be motivated or even happy. If this in fact relates to the writers working under Bischoff, Bischoff's not the problem, let's be real. It's a bit funny, this story. I generally find it quite amusing. He's an old, rich, white Republican, so my sympathies aren't going to be directed towards him, let's be honest. Bit of a hassle that he's had to move, but he can move into another nice house. So, screw him. If you're a writer working under Eric Bischoff and you're blaming Bischoff for the morale, then you're kicking the cat and the cat's being kicked. You know, it's all Vince. It all circles back to Vince. And he's a fall guy for Vince's own failures, which are becoming systemic, all the more frequent. And I was going to say there, he's running out of excuses, but he's still got plan C. He could bring back the Roos. He could bring back Vic Venom.
Vic Venom bites.
You're shaking your head. You think it's a ridiculous scenario.
I might resign if that happens.
It's no more a ridiculously improbable scenario than bringing back Eric Bischoff from the TNA wilderness.
Yeah.
Russo could come back.
That's the thing. 'Cause
How crazy has this year been?
Yeah.
Bischoff, at the time of appointment, hadn't helmed a successful or acclaimed wrestling promotion, anything like that, since what, 1998? Is that when WCW was last good?
Yes, it was.
Like, after everything since then has been a complete disaster. But you know what? Like, Vince Russo, we've just laughed at it, but could happen. And also, I think it would be even funnier because what's better than 1 out of 10 pro wrestling? What's better than that? 0 out of 10 pro wrestling. And that's what Vince Russo will give you. Sorry, Wilbur, not to interrupt you, but I'm going to do it anyway, like a bell end. The morale thing is particularly interesting because Paul Heyman is always cited as this guy that people love working with, and he's a great arm over the shoulder, he's a great morale booster and so forth. So during these like wild card eras where people's flirting around between different brands, to go from that one day of the week to go on working under Eric Bischoff the second day of the week must have been
Who doesn't know who you are?
kick in the bollocks. Yeah, so I'm not at all surprised by that whatsoever.
You know, I love the little tidbit just before we go on to the next discussion point of how we just join in meetings and then vanish.
Yeah.
I love the idea as well. Like, they can't. I might have been doing something else, but no one could be sure.
Have
So
you
he didn't-
checked catering?
So they didn't say, so Easy E he presumably didn't say, oh, guys, sorry, I've got to bail on this meeting because I've got other important business to attend to. He just went, try.
Can't be arselol.
Did you get up to the toilet? You see him running into the car park. Before we get into what happens next, one of the other central issues around this is allegedly Fox's reaction to Bischoff and Fox's reaction to the viewing figures for SmackDown. Of course, they dropped over 1 million viewers last week. And there's all this discussion about a new wrestling boom period. I know the answer to this question, but I'd like more than a one-word answer from both of you. Is there going to be another wrestling boom period?
No. I'll tell you why. I'm not just going to do the whole sardonic bit. Like, WWE is systemically not calibrated to create stars at all. Look at what they've done to virtually every babyface, with the rule-proven exception that is Becky Lynch this year. They just kill stars. They don't create stars. They kill stars. It's far too bloated, too undisciplined, too lame, too sterile. The perception is lame. It can't alter that perception because Vince is in charge. There's nothing about that company that makes me think, people are going to get really drawn to this to the extent that it sweeps over the nation as some kind of craze. It's everything about it means it can't do that. It can't even retain its core audience, which is hemorrhaging, let alone a boom period. Just to be fair, nor do I think AEW can usher in a boom period for pro wrestling. I just think they've got their own base. I think they've got the creativity and the marketing and all the rest of it to build that base, but not to an extent that would even remotely warrant the designation of boom.
Yeah, to me, the question of like whether or not it can result in another boom period in any way is kind of a bit like saying, well, can grunge be the most popular form of music in the world anymore? Can cock rock take over? Can Def Leppard be the biggest band on the planet again? Absolutely not. It's too far removed from the zeitgeist for me. Business-wise, objectively, I don't think you're ever going to see numbers like we saw back in the Monday Night Wars ever again. Wrestling was cool in the late 90s and at the turn of the century. We are far too far removed from it now. We have had 20 years of compounding the idea that this is this dumb, stupid, idiotic pursuit that is fake and stupid and all these other things. That has been conditioned into so many people, and WWE are responsible for a lot of that with their lame-ass product. Creatively, however, that's a bit harder to gauge because I don't have a lot of faith in WWE main roster product at the very least ever being particularly creatively fulfilling to a person with my taste and so forth. I don't think it'll ever veer too much from its current format. We've seen some improvements on Raw. We've seen some downgrades on Raw, Lana and Bobby Lashley since Paul Heyman came in. But I don't think, there's a line of best fit there. There's a line of best fit there, and it fits right along that big Pringles can. AEW do have a chance of ushering in more of a creative boom period, but whether or not that results in increased business, better business for the industry as a whole, I am not sure.
I just love how easy they thought it was and how arrogant the whole approach was. We're going to Fox. That means, it's the channel's been the problem all along.
Yeah.
Well, what's going to happen here is it's available to more people, so more people are just going to watch the show. Why wouldn't they watch the show?
Because it sucks.
Oh, turns out the show sucks. Yeah. Whose fault is that? It's Eric.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Now, we are 2 weeks into SmackDown on Fox. As you mentioned, a huge drop-off there. Is this all we talk about SmackDown being in crisis, not just internally in WWE, but, we've talked about this huge TV deal. We've speculated on it a lot. Is that in trouble for SmackDown as well? If they continue to hemorrhage viewers as they have been, they can't just say, as you mentioned, just pin it on internal issues.
I won't pretend to be an expert on what expectations Fox have for the show. I'll simply cite Dave Meltzer, who's, for all how divisive he is, he absolutely knows what he's talking about on the business side of things. He is firmly adamant that it would take something catastrophic for Fox to lose faith in this deal, which they are very much committed to. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to go to FS1 or collapse altogether.
Yeah, I don't see it collapsing either. There was a report, I think it was last year, of Fox demanding 3 to 3.3 million viewers. I think they would have probably looked at the past. That was in December 2018. I think they would have, Fox, being smart, intelligent business people, which I assume they are, would have looked at the past.
Well, they just bought WWE for $1 billion.
Perhaps not, brother. But they would have probably looked at the past 9 months of ratings this year and probably adjusted their expectations accordingly. Similarly, I don't know a hoot about the TV business, but from what I understand, sporting events, which is what WWE is being presented as, are a lot more lucrative for advertisers. And obviously, it's WWE, so you can do more screen-in-screen things, and you can have Jerry Lawler reading out endorsements on TV. Not Jerry Lawler, he's not on that show, but you know what I mean. It's more lucrative from that standpoint, so they'll get a bit more leeway. It's also on Friday night when a lot of people are out on the sesh. You know, Scrooge McDuckin and indeed the other words, it's probably going to get a bit more leeway in that regard as well.
So what happens next for SmackDown going forward, do you think?
More of the same. I mean, it's more of the same. It might be less completely asinine with the whodunit and Kevin Owens storylines, but then they've rescued that. But then on the very same show they rescued and put a neat conclusion on that storyline so far, they ruined The Fiend. Mm-hmm. It's reached a point now where I've gone full nihilism mode. It's difficult to get behind the product. There's a general feeling of malaise. I've never seen less sort of divisive discourse online. I always look in comment sections, not my own because they're toxic, but like when I'm looking at news pieces and I'm looking at social media, and I'll often go on Squared Circle, I've never seen it in quite some time look so unanimous as if to say, God, everyone's just sick. Everyone's sick and tired. They've turned you heel. You've got a great gimmick out of it, Broken, so I'll give you that. So yeah, what next? Unless it's full systemic change, then more of the same.
Yeah, I think hoping for wide sweeping changes in the current WWE system is like...
I'm not hoping for it.
Oh, no. I'm more of a comment on like the message board types and the Reddit types who are like, well, what if this happens and it's all amazing and stuff? It's all very nice and romantic and so forth. And I hate being the guy who might sit here and beat that out of people because I would love to enjoy wrestling on that or WWE, sorry, on that level.
I love wrestling, hate sports entertainment.
Me too, and be able to concoct these scenarios, but it's just not realistic. Paul Heyman on Raw, right? There have been some very big highs. There have been some great stuff churned out over the past few months, but it's all done in the same framework, and in the end, it's always the same grey pish that dribbles out of that show's whapper at the end of it. It's just not a functional system.
So Bruce Pritchard is taking over Eric Bischoff's role. By all accounts, he was kind of doing this already. Can he be the one to save SmackDown? He's a name obviously associated with some great moments in wrestling. Can he be the one to take the helm here and turn this ship around?
Thanks for listening, and we will see you soon. I mean, not really. Not really.
He's not Vince McMahon. He can't ring in the big changes. That's
the famous perception of Bruce Pritchard is that he's a yes man, and he's denied this on his Something to Wrestle podcast. But ultimately, I mean, come on, has anyone put over Bruce Pritchard in wrestling circles and said this was his idea and it was great? Like, no.
It's Juicy Brucey, man. He's going to sit there and be the vehicle for Vince McMahon, be a conduit for Vince McMahon's ideas. I believe he's going to have more of a hands-on role with the writing and stuff, given that he's coming directly from the creative team and he's, a senior vice president, something like that. He's got a fancy-ass job title. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope for anything. I hate the world. I hate my life.
How, aside from the obvious
my life.
Getting rid of Vince thing, how do you save SmackDown and save WWE's output at the moment?
Murray?
Get rid of Vince. The thing is, like, I'm not even so sure that's always been the popular answer, right? Because Vince is the problem. He's created it, and it's absolutely correct. But the great white hope has always been Triple H, and I've never fully bought into that from day one, because everything that guy has ever learned about running a wrestling promotion has come from his father-in-law. So why are we automatically assuming that just because he created this nice, happy little NXT product, that's going to be transferable onto the main roster, and he won't just look at what his father-in-law's done and go, oh, well, we're $1 billion company. That's fine. We'll just keep doing the same old thing.
Yeah, there's a very troubling to me similarity in their philosophies of the way they do things. I know NXT is completely different to the main roster and all the better for it, but just the little tells that Triple H has given over the years, it's very formatted, NXT. It's very scripted. You still get the feeling that he thinks he knows best, and he still has tried to change WWE, but he still very much subscribes to we know best. We are WWE way of doing things. Maybe his hands are tied. Maybe he desperately wants to just tell his guys, I'd love for you to cut a promo, but that's one thing that we're not allowed to do. You can go full pelt in the ring. We can do different storylines. We can have more emphasis on the in-ring, not comedy. Maybe it's an edict from on high that we can't do scripted promos. My hands are tied, guys. But he just has to shake hands with everybody.
Yeah.
He has to slap everybody who walks into that performance center, regardless of how awesome they've been in the indies, how high their profile was, to whether they're just some freak of nature athlete imported from the American football world. They all wear that property of the performance center t-shirt. They're all reduced to cogs in a machine that he oversees. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
80 dub.
80 dub.
80 dub.
80 dub.
Well, there we have it. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts as well. You can let us know your thoughts as well on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Whilst you're there, follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Sidgwick at
Sidgwick.
You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for haven't really thought of one, which starts with an H. Hey! Quality.
Follow me at Adam Wilborn. You can follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. As I said, this has been Get the Table. My thanks to Michael Sidgwick and Andy Murray. Thank you for watching. And we will see you soon.